Hi everyone, today I'm taking a look at Hippocrates, which is a 1 to 4 player Euro strategy board game designed by Alan Orban and published by Game Brewer. This one takes around 90 minutes to play on average. Before I get into my review of Hippocrates, I want to give a shout out to the show's sponsor, Kienda.co.uk, where I believe you can pick up a copy of Hippocrates. And if you check out my link in the show notes, you can get 5% off your first order. So the main board for Hippocrates is going to look like this, where you have all these tiles scattered all over the place. And I should say this is the deluxe version of the game I have here, where the board is of a bigger size than the standard retail one. So you have a bunch of these different patient tiles all over the place here, all associated to a different region, which is essentially a different column you can recruit from. And I should say the setting for this game is that we are a physician, we are running a team of doctors trying to cure all these sick people. You also have these additional tiles here, where you have these face-down doctor tiles, which we can hire later in the game. You also have these medicine kits and even these bonus tiles if you choose to acquire both a doctor and a medicine kit in the same round. And you also have these non-region specific doctors at the top, which will be recruited in a slightly different method. You also have all the resources here, so you've got the 3 different kind of medicines that you could administer. You also have a personal player board that looks like this, which is essentially divided into 3 different rows. The first of which is where we're going to recruit new patients into our hospital too. The second one, say we start to neglect the welfare of our patients, they're going to slip into a bit more of a desperate state. And then finally, if we don't cure them by the time they leave this part here, they're going to slip into this part here and essentially die and cost you negative points at the end of the game. Every player is also going to start with this identical Hippocrates tile, and the doctor's tiles are going to look like this in general, where at these notches it's going to show the different types of medicine that doctor can administer. So you can see here, Hippocrates can actually do 1 of each type, and if he ever cures a patient of those types, he's going to gain this many victory points. However, most doctors are going to look a bit different like this, where they might not have the versatility to cure all the different types, and they're also going to come with a cost to recruit them in the first place. So the game is going to take place over 4 rounds, and each of those 4 rounds is going to get divided into a certain amount of phases, the first of which is the phase where you welcome new patients to your hospital. And that's going to take place on this bottom part of the board here, where you have these 6 columns of patients, all associated to a different region. Now, before you do anything, you're going to roll all these dice and place them on the corresponding columns, matching their colour and also the corresponding pip value that you've rolled. So you can see here, I've rolled a red 1, therefore I put the red 1 on that spot. And I've also done the same for all the different colours here. And then in player order, based on these columns here, you are going to be able to select to take a patient into your hospital. But you can only ever take somewhere where there is a dice associated to it. So let's just say me as the yellow player went to this column here like this. I'll have a look where the die is, and then I will take the corresponding patient. So you can see here, I might take this one here and put it on my little hospital board like so. And what this means is that at the end of this phase, I'm going to take in a certain amount of income for kind of selecting that I'm going to help this person. So this one's going to get me 5 coins, but it's also going to get me a certain boon or punishment based on where I've taken it from. So you can see here, I'm going to gain a victory point, I'm going to gain a coin, and I'm also going to gain a reputation on this reputation track here, which is quite an important part of the game relating to turn order and also relating to how much you need to pay each of your doctors under your employment. And this process is going to happen 3 times, but after each time you do it, you're going to slide up your columns based on where you placed it last turn, and that is going to determine the new player order. So you can see here that this colour player has gone right at the back here, so they're going to take kind of last dibs when it comes to the next round. And it's important to say that these dice are not re-rolled when you go through this process again. So let's just say that the yellow player jumped to this column and took this action again, then they're actually going to get 3 coins rather than claiming a tile. And you also will not gain the bonus beneath it. And you can probably imagine, because these dice do not get re-rolled, that your options get quickly squeezed down, and that is where these tokens come into play, which let you mitigate those restrictions. So you can see here that this token, if I had it available to me, lets me actually switch a die with another die next to it. So I could actually do this like this, and therefore I'd have the option to take this patient instead. This one here lets me jump up or down on that column. So, you know, normally if I went here, I would now be able to go here. And also this one here, like this, means that you can take the patient from the face-up display at the bottom, which is usually used to refresh the empty spots. And you can also see that the bonuses that you get from these patients do range quite a bit, especially as you get to the bottom of these columns, where you can actually end up getting medicines, you can end up losing reputation, you can get some more of those mitigation tokens, you can get a whole chunk of change there, and all different things that you need to consider when recruiting different patients. So after those 3 turns of recruitment, you are going to take any offerings that these patients offer you. So you can see here, this one offers me 7, that one offers me 4, and that one offers me 5. So I'll take all that money from the bank. And after that, you are going to have to pay any doctors in your employment. So you're going to start with Hippocrates, who doesn't cost you anything. But let's just say I had this doctor here in my employment. I'm going to have to pay him a fee equal to my reputation here. So you can see here, if my reputation is really strong, I might only have to pay 2 or even 1 coin per doctor I have under my employment. But if I really let my reputation slip, I might have to pay them up to 5 coins, which can be pretty significant. So once you've gone through the welcoming phase and you've paid your doctors, you're going to have the option to hire more doctors in your employment. But before you take them from the main part of the board here, you're going to have the option to reserve one of these regionless doctors. And when you do that, you in turn order, based on your reputation, are going to place your little reserve token here on one of these doctors at the top here. So let's just say I really wanted this one here as the yellow player. I could put my token on that and pay 2 coins, but that does mean that I do not get this doctor yet. I'll have to wait a little time before I do that, as I'll explain shortly. So once each player has either reserved or passed on the option of taking one of those regionless doctors, you're going to go into the phase where you purchase these other doctors, and you're going to turn them all face up so you know what's available to you. And again, in reputation order, so starting with this player, they're going to have the option to buy one of these doctors, buy one of these medicine kits, which you can see come in the different medicine types, or you can actually buy both as a single action. So let's just say that this player here really wanted this doctor and they really wanted this medicine kit. Then they could actually spend the 10 plus the 7 for 17 coins and get them both into their supply. And when you buy both of them, because you do have the option to just buy one or the other, you're going to get this bonus token as well. And these bonus tokens can do lots of different things, such as giving you extra money, giving you extra reputation, and so on. And much like in the welcoming phase, you are not allowed to share a column with another player that round. So you have to, if somebody selected a particular column, then you have to go somewhere else. And once everybody's finished recruiting their new doctors, buying medicine kits, or both, then you're going to go back to your reserved doctors here at the top and then choose to pay for the remainder of their fees. So you can see here that the yellow player did choose to reserve this one here, and they paid their 2 coins, but now if they wanted to still employ this doctor, they can pay the remainder of that fee, i.e. 5 additional coins, to also employ this one. So this is kind of like a reserve system, but you're not quite sure if you want it by the end of the actual phase. And once that's done, all of these remaining doctors are going to slide along like this, and any remaining ones here are also going to rotate around and start filling up these empty spots, potentially pushing these ones off the edge like so that they can make room for any remaining ones here like this. So there's always going to be this kind of shifting economy of new doctors that are going to come out and be available for future rounds. So once all those phases are complete, you're going to go into the healing phase, where you're going to have a look at your patients and try to cure them of their illnesses. So again, you can see that these patients need a certain amount of potions to cure them, and they also need those doctors to administer those potions in the first place. So let's just say I wanted to cure this lady here. I'm going to take this tile, I'm going to try and match it with somebody who can administer those potions. So you can see here that this guy can actually choose to administer both of those types, as in the herbs and these unguents here. And when you do that, you're going to plug it in like this, and you're also going to spend the resources that you have there. So you can see here, this one requires 3 of these and 1 of these. And it's important to say that you cannot actually do this unless you have those resources available to you. So I can't just have them sitting there. And once you do that, again, you're going to attach them like this. However, it is important to say that some of these doctors can only cure one thing at a time. So, for example, This one can only cure these ones here, so therefore I might have to put this one like this, and I would not be able to put that on there. However, I could maybe let Hippocrates fill in the gap there like this, because he is still able to do that herb there. So you can actually choose to team up with your doctors to cure someone, or the more powerful ones might be able to administer all those medicines themselves. So once you've worked out how you want to spread out your patients, your doctors, and your resources, it might look something like this. And then you're going to get a reputation point based on every patient you've cured this turn. And you're also going to take the resources, you're going to discard them, and you're going to flip those patients over like so, and gain the corresponding amount of points here. And this is going to be the main way that you gain points throughout the game. So you can see I've also done this one here, because again, this doctor could administer these potions. He needs a potion, and I also had that potion, so I can flip that one over as well and take those corresponding amount of points and another reputation. And once a doctor has fully completed his contracts on these notches, let's say I completed this one, which obviously I haven't done, you can actually also flip those doctors over and take these victory points as well. But as I mentioned earlier, Hippocrates is a bit of an exception, and you can use him again and again. But let's say I completed this chap, then I would actually choose to retire him and not be able to use him anymore, meaning that I'd have to recruit a new doctor. And at this point, if there were any remaining patients in your waiting room, they're going to slide down to the emergency room, just representing that they're getting closer to death and they've been neglected. And of course, if that goes on for another round, they're going to go into the kind of death's door and lose you victory points. And it's essentially going to be 4 rounds of that. Of course, at the end of the round, you're going to go into a bit of admin. You're going to clear off any of these remaining tiles here. You're also going to refresh these patients here by sliding them all up. You're going to be placing a coin on each patient that was neglected from the last round, just to build a bit of an incentive. And you're going to start again from scratch. And of course, the person with the most victory points by the end of the 4th round is going to be the winner of the game. Now, there are another few little things I didn't mention, such as the ability to trade in 3 coins to take any of the potions if you're short. You can also choose to trade in these bonus tokens if you acquire them to take any of the potions of your choice or the medicines of your choice. Additionally, you can sell any of the medicines for 2 coins. Now, also, you do have a capacity on these kind of mitigation tokens you can hold. However, at any time, you can actually choose to trade them in to take the corresponding bonus on the other side. Okay, so let's share some thoughts on Hippocrates. And I want to start with what I think is the crux of the game, and that is this whole networking mechanism of the patients, the doctors, and the resources themselves, because they all do tie into each other and synergize to a really high standard, to be honest, and it's quite a taxing puzzle to overcome, particularly when you are wrestling against the sands of time. You need to get these things done, because if you just neglect them too long, you're going to start, your patients are going to get worse and worse and eventually die and cost you all those points, time, and effort. So I do love that kind of efficiency puzzle of, I need these resources, I need them quickly. To do that, I might need to increase my reputation, because reputation ties to initiative. And initiative is one of the strongest threads throughout this game. And this might be one of the strongest examples of initiative being so important in a game, because if you're always going last, you are always going to get the dregs. And that all ties back to this initial drafting system. And I think initially, this part of the game does feel quite procedural and a bit of an admin phase, because in the early parts of the game, you might think, I'll just take this patient and work towards it. But in the future rounds, you might have remaining medicines left over, or maybe you have the perfect doctor to cure that specific patient. And obviously that's going to be a lot more efficient and mean that you're not going to have to kind of risk them falling into a worse state and potentially costing you those negative points. But additionally, the pros and cons to going to these spots is not to be understated, because some of these really good spots here, like, if you're really short on cash, you can get a huge 7 coins here, but it's going to come with a cost of 2 reputation. And you might be able to afford that because you're running ahead with things, but maybe you cannot, and that's going to mean you're going to slip further behind the pecking order. And it already is, again, it ties back to that efficiency idea of needing to balance your funds, taking in probably patients that are going to give you more money. But the more patients you take in, the bigger risk you're taking, because you're going to potentially not be able to cure them in time. It means you're going to need to hire more doctors. More doctors means more wages. More wages means that you need to work more on your reputation. Now, that being said, I want to go back to my comment about a lot of this game feeling procedural, and that doesn't just apply to this part here. And this is quite a big part of the game. You do play 3 rounds of taking these patients in, and it is quite restrictive. You do not get a lot of manipulation to take what you want. Of course, you can use those tokens efficiently if you want to, or if you have them at your disposal, which is important. But a lot of the time you feel like, this one's fine, I'll take this one, and we'll go from there. And considering this is quite a big part of the game, it doesn't feel like it's particularly fun. It feels like a means to an end, and you just want to do this, get past this part to get to the fun part. It feels like this could have been simplified, and it feels a bit like, not over-engineered, but it feels a bit obtuse and a bit overdone, to the point where it could have just been streamlined to being a simple draft. Maybe if you draft somewhere, you'll go up in reputation. Maybe draft somewhere else, you go down in reputation. This feels like it's, again, just a bit too much going on for what you're essentially doing. Also, something I didn't mention from the little demo there is how this game scales, because regardless of the player count, you are going to play as if 4 players are playing, because there are always going to be these neutral player pieces on the board. And when it comes to a neutral players piece, just as in initiative order based on the reputation track or on the order in which things have been drafted here, they are going to start eliminating tiles based on this numbering system, because you can see here every single tile has a number associated to it, which is going to be a kind of a priority order in which these things are going to get claimed. So that can feel a little bit random at times, but it does do a relative good job of replicating a higher player count. But that further kind of dwells on my comments earlier about a lot of things feeling administrative and procedural, because a lot of the time you are just acting on behalf of these neutral players, and rather than doing your own thing. Now, most of the interaction does come through the scarcity of options based on the reputation order. Again, I want to stress how important turn order is in this game. So naturally, you are going to be concerned about what other players are doing, because you want to be climbing higher than them on that track to make sure you're beating them to the punch. So let's talk about the production for this game. And I'm going to talk a bit longer about this than I normally do, because this is touted as the deluxe version. So therefore I paid a premium for it, and I expect a deluxe product. And this is far from a deluxe product. The only thing I suppose I could maybe make an argument or a case for is that this huge board here, it is massive, it's huge, but to be honest, and this is on me, the board is far too big. It's a bit of a pain in the ass and far too much of a table hog. Everything else though is bog standard, if not worse than the average industry standard out there. These are quite nice. These wooden pillars, these are decent. Everything else is pretty poor. Particularly these dice, they're awful. They don't roll very well. They're basically these big cubes. Really bad component. And all the wooden tiles themselves are pretty shoddy, to be honest. They're very thin. I said even products that cost a fraction of this cost come out with nicer components than this. A lot of corners have been cut here. And bearing in mind, this is the company who published Gugong a few years back. That was an absolutely lavish production, and it was splendid, really high quality, just a wonderfully produced game. This one pales in comparison to that, and they should be embarrassed to say this is a deluxe product, because it simply is not. Okay, so let's get into some final thoughts on Hippocrates, and I think this game is solid. In fact, I think it's better than the average Eurogame out there at the moment, pretty much exclusively because of this networking system. I think this is a fantastic idea. It's a lot of fun, it's strategic, it's crunchy, it's engaging, and I think it's a really good piece of design. However, I do feel like almost every other aspect of this game holds it back. It stops it reaching its full potential, because all this feels like a means to an end to get to this part here. So I'd have loved it to be this part fully focused on, fully ironed out, and the rest of it just to be simplified, streamlined, and just have all the fat cut off of it, because I just don't think that adds anything to the experience, and it could have been boiled down into, say, a 45-minute game, and just cut out all the admin, all those procedures. So I still feel there's a lot of potential here. I feel like if they redesign this from not from the ground up, but redesign it around this part here, then this could have the potential to be a big hit. But unfortunately, I don't feel this is the ultimate package for this game to take off. So I enjoyed it. I think in fact, we all enjoyed it. It was a nice game, and there's some fun to be had here. But ultimately, I think all this part is going to make this almost slide into obscurity, and I don't think it's going to hold up to the sands of time, because the best designs are normally things that have had everything stripped out of them apart from the core elements of the gameplay, and I don't think this game has done that. So I think in a year or two, this game is going to be completely forgotten about. And that's a shame, really, because there is, again, a lot of potential here. So unfortunately, it's not going to be one that's going to be sticking around in my collection. I would play it again, but it's not something I'm going to, overtly recommend or keep around myself. So that is Hippocrates.